RK's Guyana Free Media presents for human development and national development this message. I begin in the name of God Almighty, the most gracious, the most merciful. Assalamu alaikum. Namaste. Peace and blessings of God be with everyone. And this is your friend, Haji, Brother Dr. Roshan Khan. Friends and families, it is a very painful time as we proceed into this election madness and the post-election craziness that is affecting us and our country with the term that I have called political humano-virus. We seem to be perpetually, since independence, to be in this state of shame and national disgrace. And now, this time more than ever before, 2020, March the 2nd, thereafter, being placed in perpetual shame around the world. We've seen people who are what the Trinidadians call shamefaced and what we in Guyana call barefaced. A theft of a nation. We have seen GCOM in varieties of styles of skullduggery and attempt at thievery of an election for persons or a political party for whom they prefer, maybe because of racism, love, or whatever. And you know what? They don't care, cost it what it will, to Guyana. Many of our hearts are in pain, and many from the APNU, AFC are not with GCOM. Many, I would say most of them. The people of the PPP, well, we know their views. But the very handful of power-hungry, power-seekers, I would say, are the ones who want the opportunities for those in power, and most of those who are doing it outside there on internet and social media are doing it mostly because of what I perceive as racism. And some people are putting certain kind of names, they're changing their names, the thralls, sometimes to make themselves look at Afro-Guyanese or Indo-Guyanese, and they'll put a half face of an Indo-Guyanese to make them look as if they're Indo-Guyanese, but you can see from their style and language who they are. It's too bad and a shame that in this country where I push the fact that we are a mature people, where I push the fact that we are people who are ready for governance and oil and mineral wealth and to become a fourth nation of the world, that because of this election, we see the skullduggery, the thievery, and the nastiness of those who only care about themselves and about Guyana. Here in the papers of Monday edition, March 23rd, 2020, Guyana could become a failed state. Friends and families, this is coming not only from the world, but an individual in this country who is loved and respected by all the political parties, and he has to maintain his impartiality, his balance, or he will go to his grave in shame when the bell strikes. Remember, there is something called for whom the bell tolls. We all have to answer that time when we are involved, after we have been involved, when we are involved with thievery and skullduggery and nastiness in the land. I'm a friend of the APNU, particularly the PNC, since Hugh Desmond Hart. I forever was, and I forever will be, my friends and families. My point is that we need to be very cautious with what we are doing, or we are going to permanently fragment our country into what I refer to as a paradise kind of state, which will be self-inflicted and not done necessarily by a government, but augmented by someone or some people who want to be in government. Now, these are the words of Sir Sridhar Ramphal. Guyana could become a failed state if it chooses the wrong path. I'm going to read the article to you. Former Commonwealth Secretary General Sir Sridhar Ramphal says that Guyana could choose the path that would lead it to a good Guyana, or it could become a failed state that has abundant values and principles. In a statement, Ramphal applauded the thrust of former Business Minister Hans Dominic Gaskin, who cast doubt on the figures produced by Region 4 Returning Officer Claremont Mingo for the general and regional elections of Region 4. Ramphal had previously expressed support for the CARICOM supervised recount, stating that the regional body's intervention was a ray of light. All should have welcomed the recount, Ramphal had said. This time, Ramphal quoted Guyana's supreme law, which affirms respect for the dignity of all Guyanese and principles of freedom, justice, and peace. He said when the court pronounces this next week, it is upon what is truly constitutional that it must pronounce. By so doing, it will allow all the parties and people of Guyana to move forward lawfully and in fulfillment of their solemn pledge to each other. The court case comes up today. Well, that was a few days ago, with a decision to be made about whether the injunctions blocking the recount should stand. Several civil societal organizations, public figures, and political recounts. The electoral process so far that it has been 3 weeks since the general and regional elections. End of the article. Friends and families, brothers and sisters, this is an amazing thing when you see usually intellectual people, because of racism or because of hate of a political party or a personality, when they try to demonize people and they try to make it look as if GCOM is God on earth. Once GCOM pronounced whether it's wrong or right, it must be taken as right, especially when it satisfies their whim and fancies. Friends and families, GCOM is no God. You heard the supreme caption that there must be peace and fairness and justice for all. And so GCOM cannot pronounce something that is wrong. And right now we are asking, this speaker is asking, why is GCOM and GCOM lawyers, why are they objecting to produce the SOPs to the judge who is listening to the matter now? There are a lot of worry that this judge might be biased because he's known to be a political activist. But I think this judge will not want to tarnish his name in perdition and disgrace for perpetuity around Guyana, the Caribbean, around the world. I think this judge is a wise judge, and he will do things that needs to be done in light of justice and fair play to all Guyanese. Friends and families, it is not just the PPPC, just like the APNO and the PNC in particular. I have had friends, and in the PPP, I've always had some friends. I always will have friends. Everywhere I go, I have friends. But it is not only the PPPC who is calling skullduggery an attempt of fraud and definite fraud. We have to realize this. CARICOM indicated there is fraud. The most recent release from Mia Mottley, Prime Minister and head of CARICOM, said that there appears to be people in Guyana, forces that do not want the recount. Why? The Commonwealth observers were forced to leave because they felt uncomfortable and they were being threatened by certain people who were being posted, and I'm sad to say this, and controlled by certain elements in the APNO uniform, and some leaders of the APNO who were signaling them to raise their voice. I saw this with my own eyes, and signaling them to drop their voices when the international observers and local observers, I was harangued, I'm ashamed to say. And they know that I'm a friend of APNO. I'm a friend particularly of the PNC. So CARICOM, the Commonwealth, The EU Union were fearful of their life, and I even spoke to some of them while the observation was going on, and they have never seen something like this, where attempted fraud were concerned. There was a case when 21 SOPs were brought out, and they said they could not accept 17. That is in the areas in Region 4 where the party that GCOM seems to favor. Now I'm going to speak. GCOM seems now to have had a favorite all the time. And my advice is that GCOM should not have any favorite. And if GCOM hands illegally an election to a party, whichever party, that party should refuse it. To save their name and their dignity and honor, these things will go in history. Certain aspect of Forbes Burnham's name is in history for rigging. Every time you think about horses voting in London, you think about Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham. And I keep saying he did some good things too. So it's not only also CARICOM and the Commonwealth Observer Team, but it's the United Nations who were also there, and that alone is 198 countries around the world. So something is definitely wrong. Then you have the Carter Center, who are also uncomfortable. They feel threatened to the security dilemma, and they were uncomfortable with what was going on there with the votes. Even I had some discussion and others with the head and others of CARICOM. And they're observers from the United States Embassy, and we had the American ambassador, the EU ambassador, we had the High Commissioner of the United Kingdom, we have India, who is pronounced, African, Caribbean, and Pacific nations have also pronounced that we need rule of law and freedom and democracy. So, brothers and sisters, it's not only Guyana and CARICOM observers, it is the whole world. So to say that there is some prejudice from some people or parties in Guyana, it is not logical and it is wrong. So at this stage I'm saying we need to be very careful, friends and families around the world. Keep checking, because I have another reading to give you that was just released by the White House of the United States of America, calling for rule of law to prevail in Guyana. So this is yours, friend, yours truly, Haji Dr. Roshan Khan, in love and harmony for all people. Let us count the votes, or recount the votes. Let us have law and order. Even if the judge pronounces, it cannot be accepted if it's in the favor of GCOM or that candidate. It cannot work. There are going to be mass hell, perdition. There are going to be protests, destruction. We are going to have sanctions, people. And some of you stop calling for sanctions. I, as a person, I don't want no sanctions in my country. I might call for sanctions on the individuals involved in skullduggery and thievery and manipulation. All those individuals involved, and any individuals who might have been in law enforcement involved in creating fear and terror and hurt and dragging people and bulldozing people with their bodies and working contrary to the norm. Friends and families, yours truly, Haji, Brother Roshan Khan, I don't care who wins the election. Do you believe it? It doesn't matter to me. I have friends on both sides. I respect both sides. Both sides I have enemies, those of whom have tried to destroy and wipe me out in life and business. Both sides. But I leave all of them to the hands of God. But I'm telling you, I really don't care. I want law and order to prevail. I want goodness and righteousness. I want peace and goodwill. I want our people to live in love and harmony. I want for no one, I repeat, no one to create hate, destruction, and disgrace in our country and put us up on the high platform in total shame and disgrace. I don't want that in this country, friends and families around the world. This is our country. We have got to save it. And yes, I must let you know one thing more. I do not believe that we have the capacity to solve our problems. Some people will say, oh, don't we have our capacity to solve our problems? We don't. There is too much of distrust, there is too much of hate, and there is too much of racism, I'm ashamed to say. Dear friends and families, brothers and sisters around the world, yours truly, Haji Roshan Khan, saying, farewell, friends.